I love being a woman artist. I love being a black artist. I love being a mixed race artist. These things are all relevant to my practice. It's important to see the perspectives people come from and the shared experience. My name's Anya Paintsil. I'm a Welsh Ghanaian artist who's based in London, and I work primarily with textiles. I think as a person from two different cultural backgrounds, as a mixed race person or a person with parents from two different cultures, I really like to look for points of convergence, and I think that's something that I find really exciting. The cultural context of craft and textile are very important to me as an artist, particularly working class crafts and crafts that have come out of poverty and not having a necessity, as opposed to craft that is linked with middle classes or riches, because there's no history of that in my family. My Welsh grandma taught me how to use different rug making techniques when I was a little kid, and it's something that I'd grown up with. Within my practice, I use my own hair and hair from people I know. I also work with synthetic braiding hair and synthetic afro hair. Using my hair in my work was really an intuitive decision that I didn't really kind of read as much into. I think that afro hair is political in nature, and it always will be, no matter the context. And I was very aware of that in putting hair in my work, and that's something that I want my work to be imbued with. But for me, it was growing up and learning different afro hairstyling techniques and also learning rug hooking techniques at the same time. I noticed that there was a lot of crossover in between the two seemingly disparate practices. Like, some of the tools are the same, some of the hand movements are the same, and I found it just really kind of organic to move from working on Hessian to my head, or my head to Hessian. I like my work to be funny. I think humour is a powerful tool in any context, but I think especially within art, and especially within craft-based art, I think craft can be quite innocuous feeling, in the sense that people don't necessarily always think that something that's fluffy or pink or silly looking can have political meaning or important a voice or a story to tell. And I think humour in this way and craft in this way are both disarming, which I really like. I experiment a lot with different techniques within my practice. I work with a 1970s Danish tool called a Danella hand needle, a speed tufting tool, which is like a non-electronic tufting gun, which I think is 1960s from the US. I work with a foot-powered non-electronic punch needle called an Airline that was developed in Abergele in North Wales in the 1940s. Latch hooks, hand embroidery. So I'm using tons and tons of different things within my practice, and I think it's the most fun ever. My work in the women's art collection is a portrait of a figure from Welsh mythology, from the Mabinogion. Her name is Blodeuwedd, and she was made out of flowers, and her name directly translates to flower face in Welsh. Mythology, Welsh and Ghanaian mythology, have always fed into my practice, but they both come from a link, an autobiographical link, like stories I was told when I was a little kid, stuff I learned at school, folk tales, all sorts of stuff. In terms of my practice in feminist art history, I really see my practice as existing within a lineage and being able to exist because of artists before me who've beat down the path in terms of Black women artists, textile artists, craft-based artists, artists who make work about being women and are not kind of shying away from that association of being a woman artist or an artist who works with mediums which are associated with femininity. Artists who've embraced that have really, I think, paved the way for my work to even exist, and for me to do this as a proper job. Like, I think I'm very lucky and very grateful to those before me who've worked in this way, and also have kind of never, a lot of the time, had the recognition for working in the way that they have. Having a work in the Women's Art Collection is one of my most meaningful museum acquisitions. It's a physical embodiment of a lineage which doesn't just kind of exist as theory or doesn't exist in connections, people making books. It's a growing and continuing narrative of women's art history, which I deeply appreciate and also feel honoured to be part of, with a lot of artists I really admire, like Baina Himid, like Faith Ringgold. I think it's surreal in some ways that my work is sat alongside them. Even if my work wasn't in it, I think collections like this are incredibly important. There's often a lot of concern with things being self-segregating, like things being black art or women's art. To me, it's not so much attachment to labels, but an attachment to the history, acknowledging the work of the people who came before us.